Right, you should be joining us from the carving video where we just finished carving baby Jesus in the manger. If you didn't, you might want to go watch that first. But in this video, we're going to be working on the Jesus on the left, and we're going to paint him up and get him looking like he does here and finish up our nativity set for the 3-piece at least. So here are the two figures we just carved. As you can see, I've watered them down, and by that I mean I brushed them with water for 2 to 3 minutes under the sink, which gives them that nice buttery look. For all of the lines where you missed and you went a little too deep, it heals those kind of where the wood expands, and the carvings just look a whole lot better when watered down. Now, for this carving, what we're going to do is this one we just carved, and this is the one that we did that I had originally done just as an experiment. This one is going to get our Danish oil and wax, set that one aside, and this one we're going to paint because it's the one we just carved. So on this guy here, what we're going to do is we're going to put this stone slab here. It's going to be gray, and we're going to use this medium gray to do that. The hay, we want to give that yellow look, but we're going to dry brush this as well. So we're going to start with a burnt umber base coat, which is going to get down into those cracks and everywhere. And then we're going to come over it with this golden euchre from Folk Art to dry brush across the top of it to give that hay some depth. For the face, we're going to go with some warm beige. And then for the swaddling, we're going to go with the blue cotton. Now to talk for a moment about how simple this carving is, right? This is the baby Jesus. I did not want to go crazy complex because I want it to be as simple to do carving, but I also want it to be simple because I want to show some respect to the subject matter here, right? And I like the stylistic imagery of this, right? Baby Jesus is a simple form. There's nothing complicated here. There's not a lot of detail in it. But then you have this hay, and the way it comes off, it's like light shining out, you know? I don't know, it has illusions and connotations to me of the Holy Spirit and so much. I feel like there's so much going on in such a simple artistic interpretation of this. I just really like it. And I've seen other folks do things that are similar, and I just really enjoyed it. So I like this version for baby Jesus because I feel like stylistically it is it's saying a lot. So that's why I went with that. But I didn't clean a paint tray out properly last time. Don't be like me. So that's why you see those other colors there. We're going to start by painting. What do we want to start with, the gray, or do we want to start with the brown? Because the brown is probably going to be the messiest. Let's start with the brown then. Got dry paint inside those I have to pull off every time. Get that brown up in there. There you go. The painting videos that we do are less structured than other videos I do on the channel. When I'm doing a carving video, it's very structured, very formed, very focused on one set of things, but these I like to be a lot less. Now I am using just cheap acrylic paintbrushes from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to be using this one here. It came in a pack of like 10 or 15 brushes. I'm also going to be using a detail brush for getting the face. You don't have to, but I'm going to. This is Cocoland. It's a cheap brand that came with like 10 of them. And then I do have one good brush. This is a Master's Touch 1/2-inch oval mop. And it's starting to get worn out. And I use this brush for doing dry brushing. Now I do have another one that is not used nearly as much. And you can see how this brush used to look, right? Dry brushing wears a brush out, okay? Keep that in mind. So don't use a brush you want to save and do other things with for dry brushing, because you can wear a brush out with dry brushing. So this brush is probably retired soon, because it's at the point right now where it's perfect, like it's really doing well, but there's not much bristle left. And after a while, it's just gonna be gone. So those are the brushes I'm using. I'm using water. I got an eyedropper there in case I need it, but I don't think I will. Normally, I mix my paints on the carving. You don't have to do that. You can do it how you want to. What I do is I wet the brush. I get a little paint on here, dip it back in the water, and now I'm going to go right to putting this on. And I'm going to get it up in those cracks real well. And just keep moving it a bit. Get a little bit more water. That water is going to drip down on the base. I don't mind too much because we're covering it with gray. I don't want to get in on baby Jesus too much, but I want to get right up into those crevices as best I can. Because we're going to dry brush over the brown. So the brown's not going to be our finished coat. Because this is going to be hay. But that brown in these cracks and crevices and this base underneath the yellow that we do over it will really add a nice effect. And I think that if you check it out, you'll be impressed. And of course, right now, I always forget about the fact that you can see the overlay down there in the bottom right, probably right now. And that overlay is, man, I like doing the overlay, showing people what we're going for. Because while I'm making a stylistic choice during the painting process, you might be like, I don't know if that's going to work out. And then you look over the overlay, well, obviously it did, or obviously it didn't work out. Because not everything I choose works out. But that's kind of the fun of the painting videos, right? I'm still learning this hobby. I'm still exploring it. And the painting videos, you get to see me exploring the painting. As I learn new things, as I try new things, you'll get to see whether or not my choices for painting works well or not. And if it does, you can try to mimic me. If it doesn't, you can learn from my mistakes and avoid the terrible things that I have done, which is fantastic. I want to take a moment too to say real fast, if you don't mind, if you like this kind of content at all, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It gives you any kind of value, if you like this stuff. It really does help me out, and I would really appreciate it, because I am trying to grow the channel, and the more people that like, comment even, share, that stuff really does help. So if you want to, you can. Look at that. Getting right up underneath that edge there, all the way around too. That end grain really soaks up paint. That's something to keep in mind too when you're painting, is that the end grain on wood, think of wood grains like straws going up and down, right? When you apply paint to the outside of it, it just wipes on. But at the top, that paint can go down in there and suck down in. And what happens there is that the end grain will soak up more paint, and so it'll look darker than the side here. See, that side looks like it's been wiped on, but up here it looks so dark. That's the end grain at work there, sucking that paint in. So that's something to keep in mind. You have to darken the back or the side or something like that to make it look like that end grain sometimes, if you want it to be even. Now, I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to take a hair dryer and dry this up so I can continue. So be back in a moment. And we're back. Now that's all dry to the touch right there. No problems whatsoever. So now we can work on dry brushing our golden ochre on here. So why do I want to dry brush this section first before I do the rest? Because dry brushing is kind of a crazy activity, right? I'm going to be rubbing it on here kind of hard and thick, right, to get it on there. As I do that, I'm going to get stuff here that's kind of unavoidable. So if I paint these after I do this, I have an easier time when I'm doing this, because I don't have to worry about getting that golden ochre anywhere else. Ochre, was it? Golden ochre, O-C-H-R-E. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but who knows? That's a brand new bottle, so cut up on that and then peel it clear. Alrighty. I don't want to shake either. There we go. Golden oak. That is a good color, I think, for hay. I mean, look at that. I think that's just isn't that spot on? Yeah, I think that's going to work out pretty well. So golden ochre for the win. Now this is a dry brush. I have not wet it down. I am just getting the bristles coated in the paint, like so. Excuse me. And then I'm wiping it off on a clean paper towel, doing concentric circles and just spreading out till I can start to see it not coming off, right? I'm turning the brush as I do this, rotating it, getting those other edges to see how much it's coming off. Because like you can see, like right there, I got a lot more off. It's where I can get just barely a little bit off. And then I'm gonna come over here and just wipe it on like this. And it's not going in those cracks. And it's not going on very thick, but it's going on a little bit. I think we might wind up dry brushing another color on top of this even. We'll see. We will see. We're going to judge it as we do it. I definitely think it's looking not terrible, but I don't know if it's as yellow as I wanted it to be or not. Or is it not as brown as I want it to be? Well, it's hard to judge. I think it's both not as yellow as I want it to be and not as brown as I want it to be. And I don't know what that means. I don't know. What do you think? And see, I got yellow on there. I couldn't avoid that doing this. That's why I'm going to paint that afterwards, not before. But by doing this, right, I'm not getting yellow down in those crevices. And you can see the brown through it, which adds a texture to the yellow that is hard to do without layering and dry brushing, right? So I think that worked out okay. I'm still judging it. I don't know that I love it or not. I think it's gonna be hard to tell until after I get it finished and antiqued. I could go with a much lighter yellow and dry brush across the top of this. And I might do that just to see, right? Because part of this is experimentation, so you guys get to see what it is that this could be, right? You'll get to know whether or not you want to do the same thing on your carving because you see me give it a shot on mine. So that's a much lighter yellow. I'm going to clean this brush out and I'm going to blow dry this to dry this up to touch. So 1 second while I blow dry this. Okay, he's all dry to the touch now. So with our dry brushing brush, I am doing my best to get all of the paint out of it. And then we'll wipe it into this towel. Now, because we're doing yellow, there's a different color yellow, we don't have to get everything out of it. We don't have to work too hard on it because that yellow won't mess up our new yellow, our different color yellow, too much. It's not going to be noticeable, I would say. But I do want to get as much out as I can, and I want to dry the brush as much as I can. So that's what I'm worried about more, is getting as much out as I can and drying as much as I can. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. Okay, fair enough. But I do want it to be as dry as I can get it because the bristles behave differently when they're dry versus when they're wet. And you can judge it easier on your hands sometimes by just rubbing around the palm. That's pretty good. Okay, new paper towel. Much brighter yellow. And now we're going to go for both a lighter dry brush and a heavier dry brush in this way. I'm going to dry brush it with a little bit more paint on the bristles, but with a lighter touch is what I mean. Because I want to have highlights here with a deeper browns and yellows underneath. I just want to hit those outer edges like this. Yeah. I'm thinking that creates an interesting effect. I like that. This was a good move. That was a good move. Look at that. I think that was fantastic. And you know what? If you're not happy with it, that's okay. I'm happy with it. To each their own, you know? Like, I do this in multiple ways to give you guys options, right? So you'll be able to see, okay, this is what it looks like with Danish oil, and this is what it could look like with a little bit of paint and dry brushing. And having those options and seeing what all options you have, because wood carving is an amazing hobby and you can explore it so many different ways and get so many different results. It's interesting. All right, so I'm going to pause again and I'm going to hair dry this guy to dry him up. And back. Okay. Now I've got 3 of the colors to do, including the gray. So let's get a little bit of gray for the base. There we go. Just make a little bit of sound, so fart jokes incoming. Ooh. That was the fart joke, by the way. That was it. Nothing crazy, just a little simple fart joke. I've got to identify that it made a fart sound. I can't walk away from it, right? I can't just move past it and say, like, act like it didn't make a fart sound. And I put way too much paint in my paint tray. I'm wasting paint. I need to stop that. And I need to stop wearing a hat when I do these videos, because when I do, the bill hits the camera. I should probably just pull this up higher where you guys can see it better. Just putting that gray on the base for the stone slab that he's on, you know. And if you want to, you don't have to make this a stone slab. You can make this wood. You could have just put little legs in the base here and made it wood if you prefer. You can do anything you want to. This is your carving. It'll be your nativity set in your home or in your family's home, whoever you're going to gift this to. Or maybe you're going to make it and sell it on Etsy. It'll go to some random stranger. Wherever you want to. And if you're using these videos to make things for Etsy so you can make a few dollars for you and your family, that's awesome. You do you. I get it. I got nothing against that whatsoever. There we go. I like that look. I do. Nothing wrong with that at all. Alrighty. Now I'm going to dry that off too with the hairdryer real quick. And we're back. Same bad time, same bad channel. Feels like I never left. All right, so we're going to get a little bit of warm beige out. I'll put that right on top of the old dried up warm beige, because why not? And then we're going to use a little bit of this blue cotton, which is going to be his swaddle. Put a little bit of that right there. And then, yeah, I'm going to get out that detail brush. Pretty small. We could probably get away with using this bigger brush, I think. That's not too small. I don't need to use that littler brush. I just like having options, you know what I'm saying? Alrighty. So, let's do the beige. And I'm not using any water on this. Just like I didn't really use water on the stone base. I wanted to cover up so much, but I do want to try to get up underneath that corner there as it goes in, right? We created that crevice. I want to get up in there as best I can. Same time, I don't want to have too much paint here. So I'm going to wipe some off of my brush a little bit. I don't want too much of this beige on the face. I want it to be as thin as I can do it, while also covering up the imperfections or any other paints on here at the same time. I don't want to leave any that's like too thick drying. That's pretty good. Clean the brush off right there. Wipe it clean. And then we'll go straight over this light blue. I'm going to start in the middle, because there's a lot of excess paint on that brush. And I'm going to start pulling it around to the outer edges. Even then, I think I might have too much paint. Which is fine. We can wipe some off on the towel if we need to. But leaving it on here right now, I can kind of push around and get in every crevice without having to refill my paintbrush. I don't mind that. We can kind of collect it on the paintbrush and wipe it off there on the towel. Any that's too much, on that, any of that excess. And there we go. A pretty simple, very simple baby Jesus on a stone slab with some hay. Now I'm going to take that outside of the antiquing solution, and I'm going to drop him in there and antique him. If you don't know about that, I'll say this. There's a video on the channel called Turd Polish, and talk about the antiquing solution I use. It's basically boiled linseed oil with a little bit of oil-based umber paint in it, and some other stuff. And the recipe is in that Turd Polish video, right? But it really adds a little flair to a carving, and I like the way it looks. So I'm going to antique this in that and dry it up, and then I'll be back in a little bit. All right, and there he is, antiqued. And you can see that there's this brownish coloring that he now has a little bit everywhere, right through here and through the carving throughout there. I think that it looks great. And that boiled linseed oil has this effect where it polymerizes in the wood, right? And polymerization is a fancy word for hardening, okay? So as the oil soaks into the wood, it dries for one and cures. Now, drying and curing are two different things. Drying means it stops being wet. Curing is a chemical process that occurs where the oil stops being oil and hardens into the surface of the wood like a plastic, kind of. But what it does is it hardens in the surface of the wood, protecting the wood so that it is more durable to people's touching it, to dropping it, and then it become an heirloom and not be damaged as easily. It's a nice thing about boiled linseed oil that it can do. So, just a thought. At any rate, that's our painting video. It's time for the money shot. And there they are, all finished up. Now, if you prefer the dark walnut Danish oil on the right with the paste finishing wax, I've got a video on how to apply that and how I do it. So watch that video if you'd like to do that finish. Thank you guys so much for watching the channel. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure to come back to the channel and watch some other videos. There's going to be more videos popping up on the screen here in a moment. Definitely watch one of these other videos. They are fantastic. They're right up your alley. You need these videos in your life. I'm telling you. Watch that one right there. That's the one. Yeah.